This is a Bugatti. I found this one as a little kid. Alright, I think this one in the back here might be a little sneak peek of my vintage collection. I think the back one might be a Bugatti. It might be that one that's actually black that went missing in the war, and they don't know if the Nazis got it or if some collector actually has it. I think this was that car. I'm not sure. The Atlantic, maybe it was called. I found this one on the left. These are both from my from the vintage part, but I thought I'd throw this in here because it relates that this one on the left is a Bugatti. I think this might be, but the one on the left that's missing its front headlights here is definitely a Bugatti. It's a 1937. It's interesting because it comes apart at the back here. Instead, I'm not sure how that clicks in, but it's interesting. Very old car. Has a yellow windshield, and then there's this plastic parts. And the plastic back here, I'm not sure when it was made. It says it might be 1980 is what I think it might say on the bottom there. But I'm not sure when I got it, but I found it as a little kid. And it's a Bugatti. I already showed this one. This is the AB110 that came out in '94. It was one that most of us liked to have models of, and it was one that was really popular at the time with the Countach and everything else that started coming out in the '90s. This doesn't have a year on it. This one is the Veyron. And if you're into collecting the Veyrons and the Chirons, you know that one of the models, their first edition, is worth a tremendous amount of money right now. Does it focus on the front? This one even has it on the back. Even though it's white, you can see the license plate maybe. But you can see the lights in the car logo there. This white one specifically was from the Fast and the Furious set. But it also has a quad turbo supercar, just like the EB10 was back in the '90s. And this one, ironically, for being so much more powerful, they said it doesn't actually go that much faster considering. The 110 is in my loose collection. This white Veyron is in my vault. It's the only one that I have. And then I also have the Bolide. This is an amazingly sick race car. These might even go the same speed actually, but the one on the left is specifically just a track car. I don't know the details on this one, but it was all track orientated with it being carbon fiber, everything. Whereas the Veyron had to go on roads. It was a road car apparently. This one, there's a lot of videos on YouTube right now of the Bolide, of them doing the test runs and the test drives under the development. This one's got an interesting steering wheel. It's more like an F1 car. Most of these ones are at this size, but I thought that was interesting, so that kept this one in the vault too. But from about 2021 to '94, there's quite a difference. You can still see they kept that little air scoop in the front they've always worked with. So those are my Bugattis, loose collection, and the vault. You might remember this one. This is the McLaren F1. I've talked about this many times already. It's in the vault, and so is this one, its successor, the P1. These two cars couldn't be more opposite, but are both made by McLaren. The F1 had no driver's assists. It's really crazy to drive it in the sim rig because it doesn't have the anti-lock brakes, it doesn't have a sequential shifter, it doesn't have traction control or EBS, or even ABS, or power steering even. It was just rack and pinion. It even had to have special rubber tires that weren't the same as any other race car because they required a certain amount of meat of the tire to help soak up the bumps in suspension, which a lot of these cars now just have on like air vents for the brakes, and F1 tires even sometimes. Whereas this one from the 90s, they only made it for a few years. And it was still racing to 2006 or 5 and had to come up with rubber for that car. The P1 on the opposite spectrum, being new, it's not a premium, but it's the only one I have of it. Between the two of them, the F1 still sits in the middle. The P1, they went back to just the regular seating slats. The P1 has its wing up, but that's usually down. That's an active aero system. But instead of having a shifter, it just has a sequential paddle shifters and electronic steering aids and power steering, of course. And the braking suspension, each one of the tires, there's actually a motor on the tires to help with the speed control and the suspension. Whereas the one, the old F1 from the 90s didn't have anything. You had to rely on everything yourself. There you go, get a nice close-up. With the F1 McLaren, I do have the version I really like that's in my other part of the collection. It's not in the vault. Is this Neon Series GTR. Depending on who you talk to, it depends on how many they made for each scenario, for the GT racing even, and for the ones that are road cars and the ones that weren't road cars. If it's either way, they're still very limited on which ones were which. This matte black is so interesting. So they were coming out the end of the vault. There's just one more, and it's nothing too special. It's just a car that I really liked. Because there's another McLaren. We'll put this back up here too, because this Speedtail retained the same center seat steering position for the driver. That's the McLaren Speedtail. This one's the last one that's in the vault. It's another car that I really like to see in real life. I'd like to drive and own one. So it's interesting to see it in this casting. This is the R8 Le Mans casting. It's a premium, of course. It's an Audi R8. Inside, it's got the roll cage, You can see it from the side there windows and from the front windows. So I kept that one. And then now I think I'm going to show you my Corvettes. So we're going to make some noise and put this GTR F1 back up here. Just going to do this on the fly and planned on it, but I have a number of these in the Neon series. I'd show it in another video. I'm going to see, I actually have one here, this Corvette, that I didn't show before. This might be all four of them. They did a bunch in the JDM sets too. I don't know if you can see that. But some of them, like this Corvette, are actually in matte finish, which makes them feel and look more interesting. These under the black light, their colors really pop in the neon and make it look like it's a neon light. Or these two just really glow because of their bodies, obviously. But this is the 2008. No, it doesn't say Daytona. It's just a C706 package. This is just a BMW M3 GT2. This one's a 2016 AMG Mercedes GT. And we just showed the F1 GT on the Neon series. So we're going to go into the Corvettes. I'm not going to go into history of them. I didn't even mention that I had these. I just do have them along with in my vintage box because they were ones that I collected as a kid. So I've kept them because a bunch of these were from the 80s that I've had that whole time. So I'm just going to put some of these older ones up here. I think this is the one that's the Ken and Barbie doll for the movies, except this has an opening hood. Can't really see what that is. There's an old 50s Corvette. This looks like it's a 62, it said. This one's a 62. These look like the 50s ones too, and this is a 58. So they still haven't changed to the back wing. And like I said, this one is probably the Barbie Corvette, one of these two that they did with the movies. Both Ken and Barbie got their pink one and gray one. They're nice. The one on the left, the blue one, is from the 80s. This one close up here is relatively new. This is some stuff more from the 60s. I'm guessing this is so bright. It says, I don't know if this is up here. These are the ones with the stingray tail and those 6 windows. Just like this one. That plastic looks really terrible. There's a green, it's not as nice as that Ford Mustang green. These ones are kind of weird. Some of them kind of don't seem like they're Hot Wheels at all because they're really cheap. But I used to love these cars with the big engine sticking out the top. Maybe that's too far. Still see a lot of these like car shows around here. This one I think is in the 70s as well. This might have been a movie car from Fast and Furious 2, actually. I don't actually know. But it's a good looking Camaro Ferrari, you know? And then we go to the 70s. They start getting really long and I think these are the same. The one on the right is from the 80s. The one on the left is fairly recent. This doesn't have anything on it either. So I'm guessing maybe a couple of the white ones I have maybe have came all white together and didn't have anything with them. Kind of like we see in a 5-car pack nowadays. But I don't know, I would have to look that up. All I know is this one's really big and heavy. It would shoot off the tracks every time. I'm surprised it's not chipped, but this one's in my vault. I guess in the vintage vault, because it's from the 80s. I kept all the old ones. But this casting is of a Corvette from the 70s. I can't tell if those are folks or not. I'm not checking it. I'm just hoping for the best on this one. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Both Stingrays, but not quite that cool window that I like, that most people like, that V's back instead of this weird little two-tail. So that's about the 70s. And then these two are identical. They're like an 84. Neither of them had paint, and they're not that special. Those are just old Corvettes I had from when I was a kid. The 80s. And then 80s. Oh, this one is hard bottom chassis and top. Which, like, compared to this one's so light and you can just see that it's made of plastic. Just looks trash. This one on the right is extremely heavy. It's got the metal bottom too. And it says that it's an 80s Corvette. That's all it says. I don't know what year they started, but then they started classifying them just in the C's and the generations. For example, after that, I'm going to bring this one back because it was a little more confusing. The one on the left is actually an 84. The one on the right is just they put out as a generic 80s Corvette for some reason. And then in the 90s or such, whenever it was, they started switching to these big wide ones again. And that's a C6. I don't know if it's got the special attachments on it or not. It's just a C6. The lights have changed a lot. Looks a lot more aggressive with those big rear tail lights on the back. This one's pretty cool. So that's a C7, C6, the left to the right. Saw this one at the beginning. It's the 7. This is a C706. You know, so is that one. This one's the Zamac version. With that one, I'm going to take out the C06 because these are all the 7s, all with the Z06 performance package. This is the Z06 convertible. This is just the Z06 and the Z06. So these are exactly the same, except we got the Zamac version, the Neon Riders version, and the convertible version. All of which are this black standard edition. There's the convertible. The one over here is the Zamac, you can tell. That's the one. And back to the green one, that's the same one of all of it. Too close. So that's pretty interesting, going from weird Barbie cars all the way up to the Z06 package like this, and then into the Zamac, and then into the Neon Riders like this. Because this is the vintage ones, I don't even know what this is. It says it's a Cunningham 4 on the bottom. It's not a Corvette, I'm sure of it, obviously. But I don't know what this is. We're going to look at that in the vintage collection too. So we finished up there with the Corvettes. The only thing left is this one. This is not a Ferrari. Doesn't have the best paint on it, but we got some. This is the latest Corvette. This is the C8. The latest version of this, the Z06, is the one that can do the Nürburgring lap in ridiculously fast times and beat the Ferraris. There's a Stingray version of this C8 just across the street at a business that here where I live in town. So there's the 8. I'll go back to the 7 and 6. These still kind of look the same. Not bad. So those are the new Corvettes. Convertible is pretty nice. Alright, that ends up the vault of my personal collection. And it also showed my Corvettes. Hope that was fun. There's a lot of 80s Corvettes in there. Got to see the couple Bugattis. And that was it. We're going to go on to maybe some highlights and then the vintage collection, and we're almost done. Hope you like this one.